Welcome to the Ask Philip podcast. Today, along with guest Robert Lewis, Philip talks about ways to improve your cash flow using your home equity. Should I buy a home if rates go up? And what about if they go down? Philip Washington Jr. is a registered investment advisor. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Be sure to first consult with a qualified financial advisor and/or tax professional before implementing any strategy discussed herein. Past performance is not indicative of future performance. And now, here's Philip.
Alrighty. It is actually September. You know what? I'm actually recording this on September 7th, and I'm probably going to drop both of these today because I recorded one before this, but I didn't do one for Labor Day. So this probably dropping today too. So we'll just say the real date, September 7th. Got my boy Rob back home. What up, Rob?
What's going on, good sir? Good brother?
Life treating you well?
It is. It is. I cannot and shall not complain. And the majority of the time, nobody would want to hear it anyway.
Hey, I think about like changing my greeting, right? You know how we greet folks and say, how are you doing? Like, we really don't care. I want to say something like, tell me something good. What are you excited about? Something like that I actually want to hear because I really don't want to.
Hey, that's a good one. What are you excited about?
What are you excited about? People are like, oh man, nobody ever asked me that before.
Tell me something good. That sounds real granddaddy-ish.
I'm about to say, grandfather, uncle-ish. You know what I'm saying? Grandfather, brother. My grandfather's brother used to say that, or grandmother's brother. So today we are talking about home equity, right? And I know a lot of y'all, like if you're like me, like you pay that mortgage every month. And I'm looking at my equity, I'm just like, man, dang, it's a lot. Thank God. Thank God for home ownership. Because I only put in, mine just, as Rob, I've in the past talked about how terrible primary residents are as a straight investment. But when I think about when I talk about the rate of return on what I put in over the last 4 years versus what we have in equity at the current moment, it actually, because it's actually one of the best investments on my balance sheet, outside of Bitcoin. So, yeah, man, yep. Who knew the government would print money like a drunken sailor, a few years from then, and continue to do it. So,
oh man, not a drunken sailor.
So but I'm getting lots of questions on home equity because people are saying, well, man, the obvious, right? I mean, we know you can sell it, right, and buy a new home, but a lot of folks are like, but I can't. I'm gonna have to, like, everything else I want costs more. So what are some other things that you've seen people use for home equity, like, responsibly? I mean, first, like, what's your stance? Do you think it's a good job to ever use home equity? And then if so, what are some good uses that you've seen or talked to clients?
Absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, I would always tell people to get with someone like Mr. Philip Washington and develop a plan with what they want to do with their equity. But I mean, your common things that people want to use equity for is home remodeling, because you want to like where you live, college, education, and debt payoff. Those are the main three things that people use equity for. Now, I'm not even going to talk about, like, obviously what you said initially, selling and then using it to buy another home. I don't necessarily say that's using equity. That's just transferring it. I mean, even in my own case, we've also seen the growth in equity in our home, like you've seen in yours, as of the majority of North Texas has seen, and Texas as a whole, really. Right. Did you know, this is total sidebar, did you know that one of the fastest growing markets in Texas is Midland, Odessa?
Really? What's out there?
Nothing. That is where the vast majority of people are who do oil and gas. And that area is blowing up like none other. I had a client that used to do like 2 weeks on, 1 week off. He was an engineer, and he would drive out there and stay for 2 weeks and be home for a week, and made very good money doing so. So I guess the people who are commuting is taking a tax on them. So they just figured, you know what, we're just going to build up a lot more real estate out here. So Midland, Odessa is developing right now.
Do you see
at
that
a huge rate?
Do you see that as a trend with like the whole work changing and us being able to do more remotely? I mean, people are able, because you had like all along 35, being completely built out as far as like going south, you got Waco, Georgetown, Marcus, San Antonio. I mean, all these country towns are being built up. I imagine that's probably going to accelerate, right? Because if you can work from wherever you want and housing is getting ridiculous, then shoot, I might move somewhere else.
Like we said the last time, generally speaking, the further out you go, the more affordable housing is. And, a lot of people are just tired of being in the city. And, they want that peace and quiet where you can go out, not have a neighbor within arm's reach or a stone's throw away from your house. And especially with people working remotely now. So it makes that goal a lot more attainable. That was one of those things that people would talk about as a retirement goal. When I retire, I want to go and get me 3 acres, a ranch, and, just sit out, peace and quiet, fresh air. People can do that right now, especially with the way that, the whole remote work environment is going now.
That makes complete sense. Going back to the home equity, those are all good ideas. I actually like those ideas as well. I think my kind of philosophy is more like the old school rule. You probably have a better number on it. I've always just said 25%, just because I think it's conservative and it makes sense. But I think a certain percentage of your money going towards housing, right? I like to use the number 25%. So my deal is like the equity, if as long as your housing is 25% of what you make, that home equity is a good idea for a lot of things. Like you said, for paying off credit cards, college loans, and like if it made that ratio, and you need to start a business or even invest in your business, but you had like the income to pay for it within a 25% range, that may not be a bad idea either. Although I'm less excited about that as a goal, because some people they have terrible business plans, right? They just say, oh, I can just take this money and throw it in a bad business I did. No, you got to actually have like a plan that it's going to work. Not
exactly.
What do they call them? They have these businesses that have minimum viable something. I'm like, no.
I know what you're talking about.
Product,
my goodness.
MVP, minimum viable product.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm like, no, this is like, if you already got a business and you already know how to make money, you just need some more money to pour fuel in the flames.
Right. Well, once you get the what you were saying, your MVP together, that would be a great idea, because then at that point you're just scaling your business.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have a product that works or a service that works. You're just scaling it. You're just 10 timesing it or 100 timing it, whatever that number may be.
Right. But the caveat is you have to have the income. You almost got to assume, if I put this money into whatever I'm putting it into, that I can lose it all and still pay this money back. That's why I like the 25% ratio, because you're like, cool, like I can go to zero and it doesn't doesn't blow a hole in my life. That's when I think it makes the most sense personally. You don't think so?
I don't. I know this is more your speed, but I don't like putting hard numbers on it from that perspective.
Got it.
From how much you make, I think it's more so, in my opinion, based on how much you spend. So you can have somebody who is extremely conservative, and they spend, let's say, 50% of their income on housing. However, the rest of their, bills mount up to, let's say, 15%. So they got 35% to play with. And conversely, you may have somebody that may only spend 25% on housing, but from a consumer standpoint, they're breaking the bank, and they spend 50% on consumer items, whether it be cars, clothes, electronics, whatever their vice may be, going out to eat all the time. So it just depends on, to me, more so how much you spend.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. To each his own, right? I think the point is making sure you don't put yourself in a position where you take on too much house.
Please don't. I tell all my clients, I love to put you in there, but I love it even more when I can see you stay.
Yep. So they can buy multiple houses, because if that credit is done, they only buying one house from you every 20 years.
Right.
They got to actually.
I love to come back and have a repeat client, but I don't want a repeat client out of necessity.
Right, be like, hey, can you help me get a rental? Get a rental? You mean like buy a rental? No, I gotta rent.
Right, exactly. So I'm like, what's going on with your house? And, yeah, man, I need to sell it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. No, cool, man, cool. Well, this was good info. Anything else? Anything that we need to be looking out for the end of the year that you're seeing in the market?
I mean, this is out of my area of expertise. Is more so on the lending side, but supposedly rates will be going up. So get in where you fit in. At the end of the day, whether they go up or not, if you're looking to purchase a house, you need to get it, and the rate will be what it is. It's funny, and I will leave on this one. When I bought my first house, my interest rate was 9%. 9%. So when people ask me today, oh man, the interest rates are going up, like, nah, not really.
Right.
You're still pretty good, trust me.
Right. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I don't think we ever had a 9%, but we didn't buy till after 2008. And we're in the great what do you call it? D. You got the triple D's for the deflationary period of time, where you got demographics, which means older people have all the money and they don't buy a lot, so that slows growth. And that's globally. Then you have less kids. That's not a D, but that's just you have less. Maybe it's less demand for goods because you have less kids, right? And then you have a lot of debt in the system, and so you have all these economic deflationary forces, which push rates down significantly, right? So, which I mean, to your note, I think it's also, I think some people might hear that and be like, well, man, Philip, are you saying rates will be cheaper later? Literally, that's the macro bet that I'm making for my investment portfolios. But that actually doesn't mean don't buy a house now, because what ends up happening in that environment is if even if rates are lower, people are putting more money into real estate, right? So even though your rate was 9%, prices were a lot cheaper, right? As those rates go down, the prices get more expensive. So if you're going to buy a house, like buying a house based on rates is a bad idea. Buy a house because you want to buy a house. Don't, you know what I'm saying? And buy it urgently, because either rates are going to be higher or it's going to cost more. Either way, you lose if you procrastinate and you want to get a house. Right,
exactly. And that's the point I was getting at, because at the end of the day, even if your rate is higher, I mean, it may equate to, let's say it equates to an extra $100 a month in your payment, which is $1,200 over the course of a year. I can almost guarantee you that you will gain that in equity over the course of a year. So that being said, buy your house.
don't procrastinate. Get your life together. Get your life together.
Do it now.
Cool. If anybody's in the market or looking to have questions, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Best number to reach me is my direct cell, 317-372-3022.
And any social media sites or email you want to share?
Rob L. the Realtor on basically everything. Instagram, Twitter, and also Facebook, Robert Lewis Jr.
Sounds good, good brother. Well, I appreciate you. Until next week.
Yes, sir.
If you are interested in having a review of your portfolio or to see how far on track you are with your retirement goals, Philip offers complimentary consults through his company, Stonehill Wealth Management. For more information, log on to stonehillwealthmanagement.com/talk. That's stonehillwealthmanagement.com/talk. Philip Washington Jr. is a registered investment advisor. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Be sure to first consult with a qualified financial advisor and/or tax professional before implementing any strategy discussed herein. Past performance is not indicative of future performance.